far we've come. Anyway, okay. I'll follow your lead based on stuff you say. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
We are.
All right, and starting in 3, 2.
Aloha and welcome to Covering the Cost with me, Annalisa Burgos, and we actually do this every week. We dive into the challenges of living here in the islands and a look at ways to make our islands more affordable. And today, our guest is a person that you may have recognized. She's been talking a lot about small businesses. She is one of the central figures in Hawaii's startup ecosystem. Meli James is with us this afternoon. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Annalisa. Thanks for having me.
Of course, and she is the president of the Hawaii Venture Capital Association. We're going to talk about that in just a bit, but it really is the foundation for innovation and entrepreneurship here in our islands. So we're going to talk about that in a bit. But I wanted to start first, Meli, with a 2026 Wallet Hub study that ranked Hawaii the third worst state in the U.S. to start a business. And I wanted to, again, not a surprise. We've talked about this, over the years about the challenges of doing business here. But is it a surprise to you?
It's not a surprise, although I thought we were the third worst to have a business, not to start a business. Is it to start a business now as well?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so that's
a business.
Okay, yeah. So in the past we used to be decent with startup formation, but it was more the continuance of business. But that's unfortunate now. It's both.
Yeah, and we're after Rhode Island is the worst.
Okay.
And then Maryland. So we're not kind of in good company there, considering how strong the Hawaii brand is. And I know you've done so much work over the decades in really building up the brand and just building the economy here. Talk a little bit about the association.
Yeah, so I would say with the brand of Hawaii, that is a regional strength or competitive advantage Hawaii does have. So that's actually something we've always really honed in on. It creates that competitive advantage for companies to not just start here, but stay and thrive here, especially if they're looking to scale to global markets or at least national markets beyond just the shores of Hawaii. So that's a different piece, which we can get back into. I would say, interestingly, to hear that statistic, it's not surprising. Really speaking with a lot of our companies around this, we've got, of course, high cost of living, high cost of rent, labor is challenging, insurance, and all of these other things. But in addition to that, there's a lot of challenge around, just a build out of like space or even just getting permitting. It's kind of like death from 1,000 cuts. So there's just a lot of bureaucracy, even when you're trying to do a formation of like your LLC or getting your permit so that you can have the electrical upgraded enough for your machinery or whatever those things are. It's just a lot of little nicks here and there that continue to make it almost like, again, death by 1,000,000 cuts. So a lot of municipalities, even ones that have a really strong startup scene, even in Silicon Valley, San Mateo County, there's a lot of municipalities that have actually incentive programs to help companies, tax incentives and other things like that. So it is, I think, a big area that we look at around like economic development initiatives. Like what are those for Hawaii and how are we trying to make it a little bit easier for folks to not just start here, but of course stay and thrive here, which is really important when we think about jobs and revenue and all the things that, again, Hawaii was built on small business. And we sometimes forget about that when we think about startups and this kind of sexy technology and of course the great work that Mama Up's doing with the brand of Hawaii products. But there's also just small business that are really servicing our local community that are businesses here. And there's challenges on all sides.
Well, let's backtrack a little bit. I wanted to share a little bit about your background and your story because you have lived it. You started a startup in Silicon Valley. Tell us a little bit about that. And obviously local girl and having that kind of out of that lens and then building that up on the continent and then coming back home.
Yeah. So, when I grew up here, of course, born and raised, went away to college and then was thinking about what I wanted to do when I graduated. It was almost like an unspoken thing saying, hey, if you want to do something different or interesting, you need to go away and do it. And maybe hopefully crossing fingers, you can come back. And so I really felt like this pressure to leave. And so I did. I went to Silicon Valley, to San Francisco, and started my first company there in the mobile app space. Started the first mobile wine app or wine website. And then that became an app.
Called Nervino.
Called Nervino, yes. It was the #1 wine app on the iTunes platform from 2007 when the iPhone launched all the way up to 2012. It was a crazy, wild ride.
Wild West back then, I can imagine.
Total Wild West. I mean, it was just the beginning of the App Store, and actually created this marketplace for us to be able to sell our information. So back in the day, nobody would put their credit card in some random mobile website, right? I'd be like, who the heck are these people? But the App Store really created this trusted marketplace for folks to put their credit card in, be able to buy apps in a trusted way. And that really was like kind of the taking off of our company, where we were charging $4 a download and making, I think, $2.70 every time someone downloaded our app. But again, this was back in the in the day when people actually bought apps. I mean, even your dentist office had an app. But nowadays it's more different revenue streams around advertising and other things like that. But yeah, it was the Wild Wild West. Had an incredible experience with my first company, and really fell in love with entrepreneurship and what it could do for a community. And I kept thinking, well, why can't Hawaii have this? Like, that was the exact challenge I was feeling when I may have wanted to stay here, and didn't feel like I could. And then I had some success in Silicon Valley with my startups and businesses, and really thinking about, okay, well, if we had the resources, the mentorship, access to capital that Silicon Valley is so plentiful in, with these accelerators and venture capital and all these other elements, if we had those things, could Hawaii thrive? Because there's so many other reasons that makes Hawaii an amazing place to do business. That's kind of weird. I'm saying that. I was seeing how we started the conversation, but there are so many elements that we can really lean into that can create revenue opportunity, as well as diversification of our economy, which we desperately need.
Yeah, and you've embarked on this journey. The association has been around for 25 years now.
More. It was started in 1988. I didn't start the nonprofit, so I became president about, I think, like 10 years ago. Yeah,
that's still a long time.
If not longer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, back in '88, back then, I'm sure
I wasn't even born yet. I'm just kidding.
Right. I won't even say anything.
Yeah,
you look great. Venture capital, though, I'm sure the scene back then is so different from what it is now. Can you kind of just tell us how people even tried to start a business back then, and then now how it's changed?
Yeah, so venture capital, it has been around for quite some time, and we'd had some a lot of venture capital here at a point where we had some tax incentives. There was something called Act 221. It was a way to try to spur more investment. There were some things that weren't ideal about the act, and so it spurred investment. And then there was a little bit more of a lull for a while, some cooling off period, and then it's really been ramping up over the last, I'd say, 8 years. We've got more venture capital funds here than ever. We've got more funds here looking at companies in Hawaii, and it's really been just this great growth of ideas, companies that are creating local solutions that have global ambition, and really seeing Hawaii as this beacon, or this place that a lot of folks are looking to around sustainability, wellness, and just a model for the future. So it's exciting to be right here. Even the way we're starting our businesses, it really is that kind of a model.
Okay. Well, you had the first fund, right?
Yes.
Tell us about that, how that came about, and where it's at now.
Yeah. So we launched Monup Capital back in 2019. We raised $6.3 million, and we invested in 8 companies. They are very aligned with the themes of our accelerator. So our accelerator we launched in 2018, our first cohort. We now have 105 companies having gone through the accelerator. And so what that does is it really helps us help them with the resources and mentorship, and helping them solve business challenges as they are growing and trying to, again, create revenue and jobs here in the state. So that the accelerator really, kind of fuels a lot of the fund. And so we always knew at one point we were going to raise a fund, because the capital piece is the third piece: resources, mentorship, access to capital. And so when we launched Monop Capital, it was really incredible. The 6.3 was the largest venture capital fund solely focused on Hawaii-based companies. So that we only invest in Hawaii-headquartered companies. We feel it's really important from thought leadership, C-suite, management level positions, all the things that are important, again, for folks to be able to have a wonderful future here, and that we've got great talent and companies.
Yeah.
So we had 8 companies we've invested in, and it's been amazing just to see that pipeline continue to grow.
I think when we talk about the challenges of doing business or starting a business, there are several aspects, right? You mentioned cost of living, we're last, according to this study, when it comes to cost of living. Labor costs, right? And then also, like you mentioned, human capital, small business growth, and then the survival rate for folks. We're ranked like in the late 40s, like 47, 49, 48. And I think, what do you think needs to be done to change these types of statistics? What kinds of things can be done to move the needle on this?
When you said survival rate, is that the company?
Yeah, 5 years. After 5 years, they close.
Yeah, so I mean, we have a dearth of I mean, we definitely have a lot of challenges here. I think one, like, it's important for us to continue to be growing more companies that are at a certain level of revenue that can attract more seasoned operators. We have a challenge with seasoned operators here. So one of the things that Mana Up, as a company gets to that, like, when we started Mana Up, our big hairy goal was to help grow 100 companies earning $10 million or more in annual revenue. So what would $1 billion do for the state? And what would that look like from a job standpoint? So I think one of the things that we're trying to tackle is, you think about any company you start, you have the same operating like positions. You got sales, marketing, HR, finance, director of ops, all these basic functions. And so if we're able to create more of these headquartered companies, we're actually able to create more of these jobs that people can jump around. So it creates that critical mass of job opportunity, which then creates more folks to come back here as seasoned operators. So I think that's a big area that we're challenged in. The other piece, I hate to bring it up again, but it's housing, right? So if we can't afford to live here, we have a lot of folks that move home here after college, and they're getting their job, they're excited, and then they are getting into like their mid to later 20s, and they're starting to see, hey, like, I want to buy a condo, or I want to, move out of my parents' house, or whatever it's going to be. And you start to see that real difference of folks that move to the mainland, and it's a lot less expensive to buy homes. So we have to start to address the housing, and we have to start addressing the economic development initiatives that are really creating more jobs here in the state.
Well, that said, despite the challenges, you've been at the front lines of entrepreneurship, and people who are just so passionate about starting businesses here, despite the odds. And you actually have, the association has the entrepreneurship awards to kind of build that kind of pride in what the economy is capable of.
Yes, so we started the Hawaii Entrepreneur Awards back in 2000, which was...
Oh, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
2000.
Oh, yeah, 26 years ago we started the awards. And really it was... it started off being like a luncheon at the Plaza Club, if you remember that place. And I think in Pioneer Plaza. And it's now grown into this amazing event. It's in the evening. It's at Waialae Country Club. We've got 250 people coming. And it's really to highlight the great successes that's happened in our startup innovation small business ecosystem. It's bringing awareness. Success breeds success. And a lot of times when folks see, hey, this is a tangible example of a great entrepreneur building a fantastic business, or it's an amazing idea. Hey, this person looks, smells, talks like me, I can do it too. So I think it's important, one, to create, we always think everybody knows what's going on. They don't. Nobody knows. You can be talking about it all day long. And it's like, we have to continue to share these great success stories and amazing innovations happening in our state. And this is a great way to do it. And we love partnering with our one of our partner publications, Hawaii Business Magazine, of course, you folks at Hawaii News Now, and tell the story. So like, students, young folks, any kind of folks can learn and just be really inspired. They're such positive stories.
Yeah, and we're actually going to talk about a few of the stories when we come back. We have to take a quick break, but we are talking with Meli James. She's the face of small business here in Hawaii News Now, and actually Hawaii business. So we're going to talk a little bit more when covering the cost returns.
Coming up today at 1:30, it's the Drew Point. We're going to be sitting down together to break down the entirety of the Hawaii weather pattern, and you can catch it on the H&N streaming app available on Roku, Apple TV, or Amazon Fire.
From the moment you wake up.
Hawaii News Now brings you the stories that impact your day.
With more on the breaking news, we go live to Casey Lund.
Ready with the push alert? I'm going live. We have an update to the breaking news we brought you this morning on Sunrise.
Okay, guys, as soon as this wraps, toss to Mahia.
And we've been covering this story all day.
Now we go live to Mahia for a new development.
Stand by for breaking news. They just captured the suspect.
That's confirmed?
Yes, sources just confirmed it.
The news you need the moment it breaks.
Here on Hawaii News Now.
welcome back to Covering the Cost with me, Annalisa Burgos, and we're joined by Meli James. She is one of the central figures in Hawaii's business startup ecosystem. We've been talking about venture capital, kind of how do we navigate a lot of the challenges that our small businesses face and just kind of surviving like the rest of us in very expensive Hawaii. But Meli, of course, has lived through it, and she's talking to us about the Entrepreneur Awards, which is coming up to acknowledge all of the wonderful businesses. So tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, so we've got 13 award categories, and we've got some that have 3 finalists. I can't share the winners of those categories, but some of them have already been announced that just have one person. So we're really excited to be having Jason Brand, who is the founder or co-founder of Kohana Rum, who is winning the Entrepreneur of the Year award, which is a very big award and prestigious award. He's actually was in cohort 1 of Mana Up, and also part of our store that we opened in Waikiki in collaboration with Kohana Rum and Manoa Chocolate. So he's been doing some incredible work around agriculture, the lettuce fields that they're doing, as well as, of course, the rum and growing the largest fields of and acres of native Hawaiian sugarcane, really bringing that back. So really incredible work that he's done. We also have Alicia Flores, who is our corporate entrepreneur of the year. That is really highlighting the work she's done, having taken over the business from her family, from her father, and really making it her own. So it's like it's really highlighting having an entrepreneur within like a corporation. That's what an entrepreneur is. So people are saying, "Are you saying entrepreneur wrong?" No, it's entrepreneur when it's about being entrepreneurial within more traditional corporation and having an entrepreneurial mindset, which is exciting. We also have Hatch, which is an accelerator and a venture capital fund that does a lot of work in Kona, in Hawaii Island, as well as in Europe, and that's really focused on aquaculture and other companies like that. And so actually one of the companies that went through their program, Mana Up Capital invested in Symbrosia, which is a native Hawaiian algae that's reducing methane in cattle.
Wow.
That is all in Nelha, right next to Kona Airport. So just some incredible companies that are coming out of here solving island challenges, solving global challenges right here in the island. So those are just a few.
And when are you going to be acknowledging these awardees?
Yes, and it's open to the public if anyone would like to buy a ticket to join us at Wailai. And I just think it's so much fun. It's like an hour of like speed learning because each person that is a finalist or an awardee or anyone that's an honoree we do a really short 30-45-second video. So you're learning about 26 different entities. Like it's super fast paced, and you're just seeing what's all happening here
kind
in the
of like
islands.
A pitch on Silicon Valley.
It is like it really. It's so much fun because you literally learn about like 26 things happening. You're like, oh my god, that's happening. But the event is at Wailai Country Club on Wednesday, February 25th. Starting at 5:00. And so, yeah, if people want to go to hvca.org and purchase a ticket, I think it's wonderful for students to come, for folks interested in entrepreneurship here, and just really get, again, that just speed learning. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, no, I would just love to be in a room full of all these incredible, passionate minds doing amazing things here in the islands because we don't often talk about just the innovation part of it. And like you said, the diversification of our economy. I wanted to just kind of segue just a little bit because obviously we are dealing with a lot of federal policies and cuts and issues. How have you seen that impact our businesses, our local businesses? Tariffs.
Yes, tariffs.
Shipping.
All of that has been really challenging.
Yeah.
Packaging. So a lot of those types of costs have heavily gone up. Even in terms of build outs, right? When the companies are doing their build outs for their stores, all of these costs are adding up. But tariffs specifically, I mean, people have had to shift gears. Some folks have had to adjust product lines or even end some of the products that they're creating because they can't find alternatives, or even from a pricing standpoint, right? So that everything shifts from your costs. It's like exponential in terms of the price for the consumer. And if the consumer won't bear the price, you don't have a business. Yeah. So it's been quite detrimental, but also I would say it's also helped a lot of the companies get really lean. And so having to get pushed to find new ways to get their products made.
Yeah, they have to make some difficult decisions, I'm guessing, right, in terms of policy. And also, when we talk about programs and support from government? I mean, I know the state has a very robust technology development corporation, right? So are there avenues that maybe someone's watching right now that has a great idea but doesn't know where to start? What kind of support is out there?
Yeah, so HTDC, Hawaii Technology Development Corporation, is a great organization that's within the state, supporting some of our economic development initiatives, especially for the accelerators, for the manufacturing. So there's some great programs out there. HTDC has a whole bunch which are on their site, as well as like the Mink Center for Business and Leadership, the SBA, as well as the Chamber. So there's a ton of great programs for early stage companies. Where Mana Up comes in is we take the companies when they're a little bit farther along. And so that's really nice to have this very well-worn pathway where people know they're not alone. There's help out there. I mean, when I started my first company, I think in college there weren't even entrepreneurship classes. I didn't even know how to spell the word till I was in my 20s.
So now...
Yeah, so now there's a lot of resources, absolutely. I mean, I will say that I think we keep talking about economic development and economic diversification, and it's very front of mind, but we also need to keep pushing ourselves from a legislative standpoint, policy standpoint, incentive standpoint to help companies be able to form here and stay here. And we don't have enough of those incentives or even just support from a lot of stakeholders to be able to support businesses here. That is a big challenge. And it's hard to identify. There's no silver bullet. But I think as we're all kind of working together, that there is hope and there's a lot of support from a programmatic standpoint. But I think there are more ways we can be pushing ourselves to do that.
Yeah, I don't know if you have a specific piece of legislation or something that you are really monitoring, or if you had a wish list for something on the legislative level, what would it be?
Well, I mean, we're always looking for more support with the accelerators. So it's, that's a real kind of backbone for a lot of these entrepreneurs coming in for support from their businesses. There's some legislation around local procurement. As we've learned through Mana Up, hey, we're all spending dollars here. If we can be more incentivized to spend them locally, if we're going to be buying goods or services, there's a local procurement bill going through, as well as we're looking more around enterprise zones. So we already have these enterprise zones. What's challenging about them is there's always one small thing or another that has the company not qualify. And so how do we relook at those zones? How do we relook at what it takes for a company to qualify so that we've got a little bit of support for these companies in their first 5 years and perhaps beyond that can help them get over that hurdle so they're not dying after 5 years of being in business. I mean, there's one thing to start a company. There's a whole other thing to, God forbid, you're actually paying like employees and taxes and you have a business insurance. And so it's a big hurdle when you're not just two founders and now you've got folks, you got to have HR policies and all of these other elements that are a totally different beast. So it is exciting. We're building out more of our Wayfinders series, which is for our alumni companies as they're hitting $500,000 to $1 million in sales, and helping them get to that 10. It's like HR policy, governance, wholesale strategies. So there are more things happening, but we absolutely need more because it's a totally different beast to be running your business and all of those expenses as opposed to just starting companies.
Yeah. So as someone who's actually been through it and has been working with dozens of companies through the years, what is the common mistake that a lot of people make when they embark on this entrepreneurship journey?
I think for a lot of folks, they have a passion for what they're building, but they don't want to get into like the operating side of it, right? The less
the boring
fun.
side.
Yeah, it's like whether it's the finance side or all the administrative things, and so many folks can kind of lose the passion. And so it's important if you're going to start a company to have a co-founder or really start to identify like, hey, how do I continue to fuel my passion and really remember why I started this and be able to get that support? And that is an area we have a challenge in, is seasoned like operators from like a GM standpoint, like operations. Other areas we find challenges like from the finance side, like people tend to put receipts in a box or you absolutely open a bank account that's separate for your business that's not connected to your personal bank account. I'm not giving financial advice here. It's just more just like basic.
We want that.
Yeah. And it's important, but also get educated or get some help on that, because it's so much more powerful to make decisions and strategic decisions based off of your your financial information than just kind of winging it and just kind of seeing kind of what's working that you think is working versus what's not. Like a lot of times folks aren't even realizing that most of the money is coming from one or two products or one or two of their services that may not be super like cool, exciting and fun and different, but it's like the core of their business and how can they start slimming down so that they can become more profitable and just really looking at the numbers, which is very powerful.
Yeah. It's very hard to, I think, at what level do people start talking about venture capital? Like
yes.
When they transition from this level to like, you know what, I think I'm ready to take the next step.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different types of investment money and capital. So venture is one. So a lot of folks starting companies, especially, some companies, they start the company knowing they're going to raise money. But if you're going to raise money, especially in venture or angel investing, you are giving up equity in your company. You're giving up some ownership. It may not be the majority stake, so it's not suddenly that someone's taking 51%. They could be more like 5% or 10%. But there is an exchange, right? It's not just free money, unless folks, of course, want to take loans. But for a lot of our companies in Mana Up, loans weren't really available for a lot of these product-based businesses. And so it's important as people are looking to raise that there are options. So for a lot of folks, they typically start raising from like friends and family. That's the
Support
easiest.
me.
Yeah, like hey, someone knows you, they trust you, they're believing in you, so that makes sense. There could be a little bit further along around angel investors. We have a very robust Hawaii Angels group, which are accredited investors that can invest money. And then venture capital tends to be like a little bit later stage. So for our fund, we invested in like more seed stage. But yeah, it's this wonderful continuum. Sometimes folks don't need to raise capital. They're going to go for more slow growth that's based on like revenue. But for folks that really want to create a real increase quickly and need it for inventory or other elements, sales teams, engineering, it is important to have these opportunities for capital. And I think it's really going to open up the gates for a lot of these companies that, again, have global ambition. Some of these companies are not just creating something to service the local market or even just to service the tourist market. It's to service folks that are not even here. And that's where we start to bring in new dollars into the state, which is what we want. We don't want to just keep circulating the same monies.
It's limited.
It is. We want to bring in the monies from outside, which has also been wonderful from a tourism standpoint. Like it's other monies come into the state, but also like as we think about exporting, we think about these companies servicing again the world or the U.S. How do we bring in more? How do we grow the pie ultimately?
Yeah. And I think the reality for a lot of these businesses, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you do have to have at some level a presence on the continent, right? You can't just be solo operating here?
It depends what kind of company it is. So if you're going to be a wonderful, robust company servicing folks here, there's some awesome companies like that.
And never need to look at the continent as an audience.
Yeah. But for the kinds of companies that we're looking for, we want to have that kind of exponential growth. And that would mean customers from outside of here. Because if you think about it, we have a very limited amount
Customer
of
base,
folks.
yes.
Yeah, but again, it depends on what kind of company it is. So
what would be an example for one of the companies that you've worked with that solo...
that didn't grow beyond the shores. Oh, we don't work with companies that are like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But I'm saying not other folks that are starting a company that want to start a really neat coffee and donut shop, right? And have a mom and pop. Yeah. That's wonderful. That's just not typically the type of company that we would be investing in because we would need to have this scaling as well as typically through venture, your investors get their money back through acquisition. Yeah. So there would be a sale of the company. And some folks want to just grow a really awesome local company, just continue, have the steady growth, and that is wonderful as well.
Well, I think, like you said, the community that you work with definitely are the kind that are looking big picture and really bringing in more of those dollars into the state, right? Which is so important, especially now. We talk about it a lot. But anyway, so let's wrap this conversation nicely with what is ahead for the year. We've been talking about kind of the negatives of starting a business, but optimism is very important in this industry, kind of the resilience of being able to start and keep the businesses going. What's kind of your message to folks out there that may be in this kind of boat of, I'm looking to start this business, I want it to have an impact beyond the state? What would be your advice to them?
Well, I'd definitely say there's a lot going on in the AI space. So that is
we didn't even touch AI.
We didn't touch AI, which is and for a lot of the companies that we're working with, we're kind of AI proof. Like the AI is not going to replace the kinds of companies we're working with. Mm-hmm. But when you think about venture capital and what's going on in the investment space, there's a lot happening in AI. And I think anytime there's a massive shift, so for when I started my company, that was the first time we had mobile devices with data. There was a massive shift in behavior and technology to have data at your fingertips, right? So that created this ability to create businesses. Mm-hmm. AI is completely turning things on its head, constantly changing, and there's just so much opportunity for folks, kids, adults, anyone that's really thinking differently about how we want to solve challenges and shift behavior. So I think it's a really exciting time right now. And even with AI, so many of the administrative things that people don't like doing, or so many of the barriers to entry and the costs early on, even for some of our companies, customer service or even logistics, there's so much that AI can do now, or even creating your marketing plan, that you could be a one-person show and have a team of AI folks with expertise in different areas, that you can do so much more with a really lean team. And that is exciting, especially here in Hawaii, is again, there's all these costs and a lot of challenge. But with AI, again, it's across the board, the ability to lower barriers, lower costs, and to hit the ground running really quickly and get a lot.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Is there avenues where people can educate themselves on AI? Because I know, me personally, I'm already kind of my eyes start to glaze over when it comes to using AI beyond the typical, how do I do this, or Google search like most people will do. Is there a place to educate themselves? Or
I mean, there's ones online. I would just say if you have ChatGPT or Gemini or whichever one you're going to use, just start using it and trying things, as opposed to I got it, someone's got to teach me. I just think just get in there. The other thing, I'll give a plug for my good friend Ian Kitajima at Pictor. He's doing some great classes in AI for executives, AI for a whole bunch of different types of folks that are interested in even grant writing and other things. So I'm giving him a plug. And he's wonderful. I've taken a few of his classes.
Oh, okay. Yes. I definitely need to take one of Ian's classes too. I've heard about, and he has a wonderful conference that he does also.
Yes,
I feel
and he should actually be on this show.
Yeah, you know what? We're going to get you on, Ian. Yeah. So, all right. I just wanted to make sure that I got everything that I wanted to ask you about. Just overall, this year with any kind of small business challenges, just a positive note again. Thank you so much for being with us, Meli James.
Thanks, Annalisa.
And Entrepreneur Awards again. More information?
hvca.org. Okay. The event's February 25th at Waialae Country Club.
And then the Mana Up store did just open, so check that out this week, end of this week.
Opening, grand opening tomorrow through Sunday. It's lots of activities. And also, if you are interested in the entrepreneurs, Hawaii Business Magazine will be doing great profiles on many of the honorees. So.
Yeah, that's right. Tune in to our partners for that. Thank you so much. And Meli James again with Mana Up and the Hawaii Venture Capital Association. I'm Annalisa Burgos for Covering the Cost. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.